Hello Internet! Hey, it's Mike White with 143. So today I'm going to show you how to upscale this image. I know I keep doing the same things and I always keep apologizing for those. But you know, the thing is we've got so many different image types, you're going to run into so many different problems, and there's a lot to talk about with almost every image out there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to get an image like this cleaned up and ready to print as a DTF transfer. So let's get started. Now I'm doing this in Photoshop, but everything that you see me do, you can do in Photopea. So it's just photopea.com. You can go to photopea.com and just do everything that you see me do in this tutorial. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at the image's quality. So the first thing we're going to check is the size. So this is 1860 wide, but we can see that there's tons of excess space on either side. So really, you know, it's just this inner square. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to select that square. I'm just going to go right inside that white, and I'm just using the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to select what looks like an even amount of that white. I'm staying inside the white because I want to get rid of this gray. And then I'm going to switch to my crop tool and just crop it. So no reason to keep that extra. It's just wasted space. And then I'm zooming in at 200%, and I'm really seeing a lot of problems with it. But that's not what matters. It's the 100% that matters. So let's look at it at 100%, and it looks pretty sharp and clean at 100%. So now we're only at 700 pixels wide. Now in other tutorials, I show you how to use the free upscaling that's out there. I apologize for this. I'm going to use Gigapixel. It's $99 one time, which is a lot of money to spend on an application, but you only have to pay one time and you can use it forever. I think if you want to stay up with the updates and things that come out, then you have to keep buying the new version. But the version I have is great, and I do keep with the updates because I'm still within that window that they give you. But I would recommend, going and getting Gigapixel if you're going to be doing a lot of things like this, rather than paying for some kind of monthly access on a service. At least it'd be way better than that. So I'm just cropping in a little bit more, and I'm going to export this. So I'm going to do File, Export, Quick Export as PNG, and I'm going to go and put this in my Image Fixes folder. And I'm just going to call it Alana. I like to put underscores. It's just an old habit from my web development days. With duck. Okay, save. All right, now let's pop open Gigapixel. I'm just going to browse for image and grab that image. And I've got Art and CG selected. That is my favorite method. I'll show you the difference. It's kind of hard to see on a video, but when you look at the different methods, Art and CG just seems to really give me a lot of smooth lines, but it's different with every image. And, actually I'm seeing a little more clarity. I'm going to look really hard at this part because this watercolor effect is going to be the most difficult thing we have to deal with on this image. Yeah, even though I was saying I like Art and CG. Yeah, see, I do like Art and CG. Look at that smooth line. I really can't zoom in here and show you that any better, but it's giving me a really smooth line on that character's back. And when I do the high fidelity, I kind of get these little bumpies, and I don't want those. So I'm going to do the Art and CG. And it is kind of, that watercolor effect, that's going to be the biggest problem. I think we all know that. All right, so let's export this. So it's going 6 times bigger. And that's one of the nice things about using the paid software is you can get bigger than you can with the free software, or even the online stuff. I've never seen anything go to 6x. Besides Gigapixel. So once it's done saving, we're just going to open this up. And I just realized that I upscaled the wrong one. I did it the one out of my downloads folder. It's no big deal. All I did was crop. So I'll just go ahead and do that again. And and we'll find out what our actual size is here in just a second. So I'm just cropping manually, and I like to give myself some room out there because I'm going to trim it, before I'm done, after the background's removed. So if this were my design, I would just cut all the way around his little bum and just follow this black outline. And my reasoning for that is that I'm nervous about how this is all going to play out with this semi-transparency. But I'm going to show you how to accomplish this. Some of this is going to be pretty advanced, so just stay tuned if you're interested in learning some advanced techniques. So the first thing I am going to do is actually cut off the hard parts of the image that I'm going to keep hard. And every image requires a different approach. If I use the magic wand and I have my tolerance set too high, I'm just going to end up selecting all through these clouds and just destroy the image. If I set contiguous here, I had contiguous off, contiguous checked, tolerance of 80, it's really destroying that image. And then if I even go light and 40, it's still going to get into those clouds. And the lowest setting I've ever used really is 20, and it's still really getting into those clouds. So there's a couple of different things you could do with this. Actually, I don't mind the way it's made that selection down there. So I think, the first one I'm going to show where you could use the magnetic lasso. So the magnetic lasso tries to follow the pixels, and you can get in real close, and that's what's really nice about having a big image. And you can just click, and then it'll just suck over to the edge, and then you can follow that with your lasso tool and just go all around like this, and then just kind of carve out places and then just chop just that place. Like say if you wanted to keep that little water bubble right there, that little droplet, you can go around it. And this is a really nice blend of man and machine. It really gives you a good blend of your hand guiding where the chop's going to be made, and then it actually is helping you quite a bit too. So now I can select here, I'm just holding shift, and see I'm just drawing back over that part where I started and didn't get what I wanted, and that just added that part to my selection. Then I can just come in here like this and just keep going all the way around, and then I'm just going to jump up here and follow that water bubble again and end that off, and then start here and hold shift and just come around in here, and I'm just going to click to kind of hold that right there, and I'm clicking when I'm getting close to the edge, and that also just lets the computer know, lets the program know what you want. And so then I could just take that and I could hit delete and get rid of that area. But I'm actually going to back up because, I'm really nervous about this part down here at the bottom, this watercolor part. But I don't mind the way that selection selected it. I think you see what I mean. It really kind of followed just about what we want it to do. And so I'm pretty proud of that and happy. And so I think that what I need to do is kind of separate this off and select this in a multitude of ways. So just use multi techniques to get this. So I'm going to start with that selection there, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm just selecting this part so that I don't have an edge here. I don't want to leave that edge, and it's really tricky to select that, especially when you have your tolerance low on your magic wand. That's when things get really tricky, and it's hard to select. It won't go to the very edge of there, and I'd end up with a white line there is what my fear is, okay? And now I'm going to use the magnetic wand, the magnetic lasso, in reverse. So I'll hit escape to start over here. I'm just going to come right here on the edge and click, and then use that in reverse, and I'm going to click to define this part. I probably should be more zoomed in on this area. I'm just going to follow that edge and save this cloud, and then as soon as I'm past the part that I want, because I hit Alt to get started, so I hit Alt And that's how I got started making that selection. And then if I want to come in here and show you a real fine detail, how close you can get, I'm just going to come in here and do that right there. So that's just kind of ended that cloud right there. Now if I want to add to my selection, I hit Shift. I'm just going to follow this around, and they see that it's not going to bridge this gap on its own. So I'm just going to go slow and click several times if I need to make that selection part right there. All right. And the same thing, I'm just going to hit Alt right on the edge. And then I'm going to come in here, and come right around here, and I'm just following around that. And so that's removed that from my selection. Now some of this I can grab with the regular lasso tool because it's easier, and hit Alt and just click and drag. When you're using the lasso tool, you don't have the magnetic lasso. You don't have to hold down. It just stays. It's like stays clicked for you, if you will. And you know, when I'm doing the regular lasso, you have to hold your mouse button down. I'm just going to get most of these areas because I want to see that from zoomed out, and I'm just avoiding the edges and kind of driving the selection back towards what we want it to be. Now in here I can just get in real tight and deselect all of that. So that's got that part pretty good. Now let's get in here. I'm going to do the magnetic again. And I'm holding Shift, and I'm just going to draw across this difficult part right here first. And you just saw me clicking over and over again to kind of make that happen. When you change directions with the lasso tool, it's a good idea to click as well. And I'm just going to do that again because it just didn't really get into that tip there. All right, so that's got that. And then I'm going to hit Alt and no, I just did that backwards. Escape, Alt inside. I'm trying to get it to find this edge. I mean, it's really struggling. That's super light there. The difference between the white and this grayish cloud is just hardly anything. But it is finding some pixels to latch onto, and the relaxing thing about this is as long as you get a pleasing shape out of this, you don't really have to worry if you actually selected the right pixels or not. It'll just be kind of white right there because it's already so close to white. That's not going to stick out or anything like that. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing here. I just clicked Alt, and I'm just following that gray edge. I mean, it's so hard to see. I'm just following it around, and just whenever I get tired, I just stop by kind of finishing it off like you just saw me do. Okay, so inside, Alt, get latched onto the edge. I had to click to make it do that. And then stay with it. And now just cross right over this boundary. And now I see I've got some to chop out inside here, so I'm going to go for that. So I'm going to click right here and just force it across this chasm. So there we go. Just kind of go right around this. Definitely going to click in this deep corner. And then just come right back around. And that's deselected that part. And I think I see a little gap here, but I'm not going to worry with that. Those are the kind of decisions you just have to make. All right, so we're really just adding to our selection here. And that might be it. I don't see any problems. I'm just going to hit delete and see what we get. Okay, I think that's great. I was worried about needing to maybe half-tone this down here. Let's look at this whole thing against black. I just added a solid color layer, and I'm just going to look at everything against black, because that's when you can really tell if you've got a problem. And I mean, it's not super pretty down here, but it's watercolor, so it's okay to kind of have this like torn edge effect. If you don't like that, you can always go in with your eraser tool I don't like it right here. So hang on, I'm just going to back up. Well, we can just paint that back in. That's what I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to do a new layer. And we are going to grab our brush. And we're going to select one of these colors. And I'm just going to paint these kind of messy parts back in. And I'm going to smooth some of these areas out. I just don't want it to look chewed up. So I am going to deal with this right here. I'm just going to use that color. Use a color nearby. I'm just hitting Alt to select a different color. And we'll just paint that back in and try to make that look natural. And then this part, I am going to just erase this. So I'm going to select the layer above and just erase that. And I've got smoothing turned on to my brush, which is definitely helping me. I'm going to hit B to go back to my brush. And I'm just going to fix up this edge right here. And now that I've kind of opened the can of worms, I'm like literally smoothing all the edges because I can't help myself. Just don't want anything to look unintentional. That's the thing, we want to make sure it looks intentional, and we probably wouldn't have intentionally drawn these edges. And then this little free floater out here, I'm just going to get rid of it. Select the right layer. I'm using the paint behind technique by painting behind this other, on this other layer. That's what I call it, is paint behind. And I'm just going to go around all these edges and make sure they look nice and smooth. The printer is not going to do too bad of a job with that little torn edge look, but it might not be pretty. So we're just getting all in here, and I'm just kind of edging it out so that it's smooth all the way around and looks intentional. And those strokes are looking that smooth because I've got smoothing turned on my brush. I want to make sure my brush is hard. Yeah, it is 100% hard. That would be step one before you start painting. Because I want to get a hard edge there, so I wouldn't want to put a glowy, little edge around that. And I don't even know if y'all can see this really. I mean, these are just little, it looks like it's been torn out of paper because of the way that magic wand had to kind of make that fuzzy select. And that's what that 20% tolerance does. When you have your tolerance set low, that's the kind of thing that you get, is kind of these not great edges. But then, if your tolerance is set too high, as you know, it's just going to run ramshot over everything. So that's what we want to avoid. Okay, that's good enough, even for me. Oh, we got some edges up here. Can't help myself. I'm just going to clean those up so they don't look ripped out. And you might like that ripped out look. And if you do, that's awesome. I mean, that's just personal preference. I don't care for it. Okay, and so I also see that I've got some edginess around this black area. So I'm going to merge this down so that I'm just working on one layer again. And I'm going to grab black, and I'll grab the black that's used in this letter. And then I'm going to hold Control and click this layer. And I'm going to get a big brush, because I can just run right over all this. And I'm just going to run right over all this. And not have to worry because I've got the layer clicked. I mean, I can't get into that white area. Now when I deselect, you can see what it did. It got rid of that shine. There's a little bit left, possibly. So I'm just going to try that one more time and make sure I'm actually getting that. Photoshop and Photopea act a little differently in this regard, but for the most part, it's the same. Photopea is actually a pretty amazing program. I mean, to be free software. So yeah, there's still a tiny little edge there, but it's infinitesimal. It's not something that you're going to see in the print. There's a good example of what it looks like before I do that. So we'll just control click again, and we'll just paint all that out. And then I just switch to my eraser tool, and I'm going to deselect so that I can just clean up this edge. Those connections are the worst part, the thing you need to pay the most attention to. B for the brush tool. Paint out these edges. And that's another artifact that kind of comes from upscaling too. Like if this was, you know, clean SVG art or something that was like, you know, just stayed pure from the beginning all the way to the end, you wouldn't have those little edges. But we took care of them, we painted them out. And now we're going to do around our character. So we'll just get in here. And I want to get pretty close. And I just hit Alt to select this color black. You know, I can keep selecting it just to make sure I'm on the right black. And another thing you can do through here is keep hitting Control D to deselect, and I still see like an edge, but it's way better than it was. And I mean, that's what we're doing. You know, we're just trying to feed the printer the best version of our artwork that we can. And also, you know, we don't want to spend hours on this. Y'all don't want to watch hours of me doing this. And I'll pause and so I can speed things up. Okay, so now I've painted everything out around, and I don't really see any more problems. You know, I'm going to make an executive decision, and you know, this is kind of back to like that, you know, what looks intentional. This all looks like a water splash down here to me, but it really doesn't up here. And I hope the person I'm doing this artwork for is going to be happy with my decision here, but I've just decided I'm going to cut this out. And so I'm going to do that by just holding Shift and letting this attach, and then I'm going to stay on the inside, and I'm going to come all the way around in here. I just think that part is lost, and these things happen when you're cutting things out. You know, it just feels wrong, and so you just make an executive decision and get rid of it. I'm just going to come down here and connect with that, and then I'm going to start up here. You know, something else I'll talk about is that, you know, with images like this, you just kind of learn them. That's what I call it. It's like as you go along, you learn more about what needs to be done to the image to make it look nice. And so there we have that edginess. So I'm just going to go back in with my brush tool and just select the color. And we're just painting all around this edge. And it's so funny because you just can't even see what you're doing, because the selection area is actually like kind of hiding the work that you're doing. But when you Control D, then you can see that it's all cleaned up. All right, so now I'm going to get rid of that back, and I'm going to do image trim, and that'll kind of check my work. You know, I'm going to turn this back on and make sure that, yeah, everything's all the way right to the edge. And then I'm going to look at my size. Oh my gosh, 3600 pixels. It's perfect. So I don't know if it started that way. That's kind of amazing. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to change this to 300. It does not matter. It does not matter. The resolution does not matter. But some programs will actually pull this in and base, you know, the size that it prints off based on the resolution. So it's just professional to have a 300 resolution. I think that's interesting that we got exactly to 3600 pixels. I think this might have started that way. Okay, anyway, I'm just going to save that. And when I do work for a client, I, go ahead and name it something that makes sense. So I'm going to put this in my image fixes folder. And I'm going to overwrite that one I saved earlier. And then I'm going to put my name at the end, Mike143. And that'll also let my team know that I actually did this one, so that they really don't have to check it as hard. We trust ourselves a little more because we've got a little more experience. Hey, thanks for ordering your DTF transfers at 143 Vinyl, and thanks for watching my tutorials, and I hope this helped. Have a great day. Goodbye.